The Meteor is a Tier 8 premium Soviet destroyer, and it's essentially a copy-paste of the Tier 8 tech tree Soviet destroyer Delny, except quite a bit worse, in my opinion. Before we get into why, I'll show you the commander build I was running. It's Anton Gurin, a gun-focused Soviet destroyer commander and one whose skill tree improves the AP characteristics. This ship, the Meteor, was billed as an AP-focused destroyer, and I suppose to some degree it is. I've seen in the past several days since its release, people compare it to other Tier 8 destroyers that are also AP-focused, like the Schultz or like the Elbing. I don't see the comparison at all. I think both the Schultz and the Elbing have AP that is orders of magnitude better than the AP you'll find on this thing. And to be honest with you, I've struggled to make it work for about 3 days now. I've played 12 battles in it, which, to be fair, isn't a lot. And I have a 67% win rate with a 2,000 XP average, so it's not like this thing is losing me a bunch of games, but I don't think it's performing very well. Now, we'll run down the stats as we're inside the Bravo cap here. There's actually an enemy Meteor inside of the cap with us, and the friendly CV is about to minimap spot him with the planes. He's behind the island near the Schlieffen there, and we're going to meet him and test out the efficacy of the AP. Now, to begin running down the stats, keep in mind they're influenced by the Gurin build, and one of the skills I've got on Gurin is the glass cannon skill. That improves the accuracy by buffing the shell grouping to the tune of 10% and buffing the dispersion by 5%. But as a downside, you get a 5% HP nerf, which is why you see us having 23,750 HP, whereas this thing actually gets 25,000 HP base. The reason I decided to take that trade and cut down the HP is because I found that without that skill active, the dispersion on these guns was very questionable. And you kind of need the guns to be accurate in order to, land good AP salvos. You want the AP to hit what you're aiming at. And as you can see, we had an exchange there with the enemy Meteor where we definitely came out on top. We removed 10,577 HP from that guy, and he removed less from us. So it's definitely a win of a trade. We've got the Torpedos going his way as well, but they're not going to hit. And I think eventually the CV is going to drive him out of this cap, which is going to allow us to take it. That's good. If we secure the center cap, that's probably helpful to our team. Now, back to the specs of Meteor. The HP reduction with that skill, I think, is a worthwhile trade-off. You do have a choice as well in the consumables that can help you with survivability. By default, this thing actually comes with a sonar that has a 4.7 kilometer ship detection range and a 3.3 kilometer torpedo detection range, but you can switch out the sonar for a heal, which restores 118 HP per second for a total of 28 seconds. As you can see, I have opted for the heal to increase the survivability. I'm used to Soviet DDs not having sonar. It's not that big of an issue to me, but I suppose you could go either way with this thing. We've also got an engine boost with an 8% speed buff, and of course, the main battery reload booster, which does help with the DPM on this thing. Speaking of which, as we drive the enemy Meteor out of the cap, the guns are the typical Soviet destroyer guns. There are 6 of them, 130 millimeters in size. With this build, using the sidestep skill in the 4th row of Gurin's maxed out skill tree, which increases the main battery range by 10%, and then rumble as 1 inspiration, which gives us, I think, another 6% increase, we're at 13.6 kilometer range. That, I think, also includes the epic booster flag in the last flag slot. 13.6 is alright. It is, I think, the same as Delny because neither of these destroyers get access to the range mod. Of course, Kaba and Tashkent can both outrange both of these ships. I don't know why that is. I guess in the beginning, when Tier 8 first debuted, Delny was the highest performing destroyer at the tier. At one point, I held the damage record in it, but it was only like 230 or 240k. It's probably been surpassed at this point. I don't see this thing achieving that kind of damage with its guns. We've got a 5.2 second reload here, which is fairly slow. And the HE and the AP, that's the big difference between this thing and Delny. Now, in Gurren's legendary row of skills, I'm using the Rather Be Torching skill to improve the fire chance, because base, the Meteor gets a maximum HE shell damage of 1,650, which is bad, and a 6% fire chance, which I also think is not great. I've used the Rather Be Torching skill, and with that active, well, we get a little bit of a buffed fire chance. We go from 6% to 9%, which is a little bit better considering the 5-second reload. However, the HE alpha is reduced to 1,535. Either number, though, is bad for Destroyer HE. It's reminiscent of the Germans, actually, except the Germans get a much better trade for their lack of HE alpha. They get quarter caliber penetration, whereas this thing, as far as I can tell, only gets 1/6. So the reason the HE damage is so anemic and underwhelming is because the AP has been improved. We've got a maximum AP shell damage on this thing of 3,150, which is better than Delny's. And as you can see here from 9 kilometers away, we are able to somewhat penetrate the Dalian's armor scheme. I do have Shen Bing as one of the inspirations on Gurren. He improves the AP pen angles, and I think he's probably necessary to get the most out of this ship. Without him at the inspiration slot, the AP I found was ricocheting quite a bit more. This thing also has torpedoes. They have an 8-kilometer range, 60-knot speed. They reload relatively quickly in 110 seconds. And there are 10 of them in 2 quintuple launchers. They do a maximum damage of 14,400, which is kind of low. But the detectability range by sea is 1.3 kilometers, so they can be a little bit sneaky. I haven't gotten too much use out of them, although I think we will here in this sequence. As for the AA characteristics, bad. It's got an aggregate defense rating for AA of 53, and I don't think it's capable of shooting down too many planes, although we have shot down 10 in this game, so maybe it's not the worst. Just doesn't feel like it's very good. You wouldn't really expect it to be. As for the maneuverability, well, we are using a skill on Gurren that buffs the speed, so we've got a maximum speed before the engine boost of 47.9 knots. That's also including the booster flag. Without that, I believe the base speed is 45 knots. Pretty good. 760-meter turning circle, 5.6-second rudder. Here's the Dalian eating a couple of our torpedoes. We've gone to the AP. We've got his broadside, 1 citadel exactly, and we're able to take him down. So as you can see, the AP at closer ranges can shred like cruisers. I have gotten some citadels on cruisers at even longer ranges. The very first match I played in the Meteor, I was fighting a Weimar, and I think I citadeled him at like 10 kilometers, which surprised me, to be honest. I suppose you could probably do that on a regular basis against light cruisers, but that's, well, any destroyer practically could do that if it's close enough shooting AP. Maybe not any, but a lot of them could. I don't think it's all that impressive, to be honest with you. The concealment that we have on this thing is 6.5. We could make it better if we weren't running the skill in Gurren's skill tree called Flank Speed that increases our speed. We could be running Look at Me Now, and we could get down to about 6.1, but this thing is a Soviet destroyer, so it kind of can do this open water gunboat, agile cruiser style of gameplay, and that's how I want to play the Soviet destroyers. That's a fun playstyle, in my opinion. It's one I enjoy very much, which is why I love the Khabarovsk, the Delny, the Tashkent so much. I like the Elbing and the Schultz too. They're sort of similar to that, but they aren't as maneuverable. The AP does hit hard though, and this stuff just doesn't compare to it. Take a look at this sequence here where we're fighting the enemy Meteor. He's angled to us, so the AP isn't effective. We switch to the HE. Even with the improved accuracy with the Gurren skill, the accuracy does seem to leave a little bit to be desired. I mean, look at that dispersion. And when the shells hit, they're only doing damage in the triple digits. Not exactly very impressive, the low triple digits at that. And even if I wasn't using the Rather Be Torching skill, the damage would still be anemic. Luckily, the enemy Meteor goes down. The blue team has both the Bravo and Charlie caps, thanks in part to our efforts, and there's only 3 battleships left, one of which is the Scarlet Thunder, another sort of copy-paste tech tree premium. That one is a copy-paste of the Duncan, but it also has some differences, much like this thing is a copy-paste of the Delny with some differences. And I've only played the Scarlet Thunder maybe once or twice since its release. I've been focused on this thing quite a bit more. I'll get to the Scarlet Thunder next, but first impressions, I think if you're going to go after either one of these ships that are available, despite what you saw there with the Scarlet Thunder being dev-struck by our teammate, well, I think probably Scarlet Thunder would be a better choice. If you want to get a playstyle like the Meteor, you could simply grind to the Delny. You'll have not quite as good AP parameters in terms of maximum damage, but you'll have much better HE. And with that HE and the ability to more consistently stack dots, as well as just damage people more with the HE pen, I think you'll do a lot more damage with the Delny than you will with this thing. You don't have the benefit of the main battery reload booster, but in order to really get any kind of significant damage at all out of the Meteor, I think you need the main battery reload booster, whereas I don't think that is a necessity on Delny. The entire time I was playing this thing, I just kept thinking I would rather be playing Delny. I've seen people say it's good, but I just don't see it. I think at best it's mediocre. I appreciate, though, the concept of the ship. I think conceptually, the idea of a copy-paste Delny that's focused to be more of an AP exclusive destroyer with a main battery reload booster is interesting in theory. I just think the execution here is a bit off. It seems to be missing something. I think maybe the AP needs improved pen angles or shorter fuses or something to spice it up. Actually, you know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is the reload. Again, even with the reload mod, we've got a 5.2 second reload, and there's another destroyer that's sort of similar to this thing in the sense that it's AP focused and has a main battery reload booster. That would be the ZF6. Now that's a tier lower, I think, or it might be at tier 8. I think it's at tier 7. I honestly can't remember right now off the top of my head. There are too many ships in this game, but in any case, the ZF6 is a AP-focused destroyer at tier 7, I believe. It's at tier 7, and it's AP-focused, but the difference is it's got slightly smaller guns, 128 millimeters instead of 130, and it's got a 3.5 second reload with the reload booster. I found that the AP on that thing is much more effective than the AP on the Meteor, and that could be not only because of the reload, but also because of improved pen angles. Unfortunately, the ZF6 I don't think is directly available. I don't think it's a GXP ship. It was an old campaign ship. This thing is sort of like that on a superficial level, but I just don't think it's worth pursuing, so unfortunately, I can't recommend it. Hope you enjoyed the video, though. Give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.